Hey Julie, I just wanted to first of all thank you for your vulnerability of what you shared in that post. This is exactly the reason why I have this talk shop, and the more women are able to be vulnerable and share how human we are, let's just state that, and just the regular struggles that most of us have, the more we could share and support one another, the better. So thank you first and foremost. I don't want to skip over that, for being vulnerable. So let me reply to what you said, because that's an excellent question. I'm actually really proud of you, because you're already noting two very important things. We can call them nuances. The first one, you had said, hey, I feel like, I'm in this frustrating situation. Just the normal, natural, primal version of me just wants to grunt, whether that's the inner child, whether that's just a natural release and it feels good in my system. Well, how do I do that? Like, when is it socially appropriate? Do I just do it? Do I just not? Is it embarrassing? Is it not? Is this healthy? Is it like, or am I taught that, have I grown up hearing that that's not healthy and I'm programmed to think like that? What is my daughter gonna think? Good. These are the questions necessary that we need to ask ourselves before we can drop out of, the current system in our brain, and have a better way to respond. So let's start with the first part, because there's three things that you mentioned. The first thing is, I need to grunt, I need to yell, I need to run, I need to do whatever it is. I will say this: do it when it makes sense, and it's, how do I say this? When I say socially acceptable, it's not to go back into our old program of what's acceptable when and where. Like, if you needing to do a grunt or something, like in front, out loud, in your raw, most primitive way, like, sometimes that's not a bad thing. Sometimes, like, we don't need to sit there and apologize to people for expressing emotions. However, with that being said, it's dependent on where you are in life. For instance, like, let's say I'm working with a client and they're actually triggering me or they're not triggering me, like they say something and I get reminded of something, and I just want to start crying or da. Sometimes I have to kind of compartmentalize that a little bit and say, noted, this is a frustration, I feel really sad, or I'm remembering a situation where I was ignored, or I'm tapping into these raw emotions, which means they exist in me and I still have to process them when appropriate. And so oftentimes when I'm still kind of feeling that, maybe I get into the car, maybe I kind of can get home and I know I have some time, maybe even before my husband gets home, and I need to process with myself. I will honor and give myself the time and the space, the freedom to do what it is that I need to do, where I'm going to feel comfortable to let it out and express it, instead of continue to suppress it. So just because, like, let's say you did that grunt sound or whatever, let's say your dad was around, maybe if you had some time to go to a separate room and have your moment, especially if you know that this is not a person that's going to support you, because we don't want to keep reenacting something when we oftentimes already know that they're not going to support, not going to help, hence compounding the hurt and pain. Maybe you had some time after the party or something. Maybe you had a break to a little bit of time to go to the store and you needed to yell it out. Do what you know is going to honor your system, and let yourself feel that when you feel safe and comfortable to do so. Because we're not forcing you to, right in the moment, do what you got to do, yell, grunt, and then, feel weird or strange or criticized by people. We're not trying to have that happen. So again, ladies, I'm going to encourage you, when you can, where you can. Eventually, maybe we'll get to a point where I could just, do whatever I need in front of my people, parents, friends, and not care, maybe. But do what honors yourself and gives you the safety, because there's a difference between, and I'm going to add this to make it a little bit more layered. There's a difference between you just having like a grunt, a temper tantrum, yelling, and then continuing doing what you're doing. Letting that out, when I say attune to your emotions, feeling it is important, but you have to have time to process. Okay, it's not just feeling, it's also processing it out. So maybe, like, let's say you had some time in your room. Let's say life is ideal, and after the party you had some time alone or whatever, or you went for a drive. Maybe as you grunt, then you bring up these emotions and memories and feelings of other areas where you were ignored, where someone frustrated you, where someone just overlooked you. Can sit in that, and again, like we've done this together, girl, like speak to that inner child of encouraging her and letting her be heard and giving her the imaginary hugs and presence and time and space to experience, process out, and experience the healing that she needs to receive. So we're not just, again, grunting and that's it. What is that? I'm angry. I'm angry because I feel so unappreciated, because it reminds me of like the last time I did this for my mom and my dad, and then they still yelled at me. Okay, and then again, sit and process and heal when you have the time to do that. The other thing I wanted to say was, you were like, well, what's appropriate, what's not? In some families, you know, it's like it's so normal to like process and grunt and do something, and in some families it's like, oh, that's weird, you have an emotion or you express something loud, you gotta suppress it. Well, and that's the thing, like, again, you are gonna, you know, I can't tell you what's normal or what's not. You just have to tell me, and every person's gonna have their own life code or story of what makes sense. What are they ready to do and experience, and how? Maybe, you know, like kind of tagging to that third question, when you're raising your daughter, you start to model to her how to express emotions or not. Okay? And maybe that's going to take you guys some time to figure out what's, again, I don't like saying the word appropriate or normal because it's so subjective, but like what makes sense in your family context, in your life. Because again, like you not ever expressing any kind of emotion, or you looking inhuman to your child and looking like a robot, like you're always smiling through everything and you just breathe and move on, like, you know, then you're going to program to your kid like, oh, we don't have emotions, and when we do, we just suppress and move on and work. There's going to be some level of vulnerability where you're going to teach your daughter, where you're working, and you just start to kind of cry. And you decide, is that okay for your daughter to see the rawness and the humanness of you? What's going to be more beneficial in some scenarios? Again, it's very case by case specific. To see your daughter watch you kind of crumble, cry, clean it up, sit, breathe, hug her, and tell her like, hey, it's okay, I'm just feeling overwhelmed. And sometimes crying makes me feel better. Or sometimes I just want to like let that out of my system, and then I just feel relaxed, and I can continue doing what I was doing, cleaning or whatever. Like, you're gonna have moments where it's like we can't piece together this like perfect looking being, nor do I want us to just have these temper tantrums, again, us crying and just being mad and just continue doing what we're doing without resolving anything. There's something very vulnerable, I think, about letting our kids, again, when appropriate, to witness our humanness. In fact, I was very proud of one of my Top Shop community members. She was talking about, she's been teaching her younger daughter about emotions, and I think her daughter's like just a couple years old. And at one, you know, the daughter will be like, oh, are you happy, are you sad, you know, the way a youngster can even, you know, comprehend that. And so, you know, this member from the talk shop had said she was experiencing just sadness, and her daughter noticed it, which is amazing because this child is becoming emotionally very attuned to other people. And what's important, what I thought was so healthy, was when this child saw her mom being sad, she started to try to immediately cheer her up, make her feel better, because it's starting to maybe hurt her. And that's the problem of codependency. I feel their distress and it makes me distressed. I need to solve their distress so I feel more at ease. We're not doing that. And I'm so proud of this talk shop member. She was telling her daughter, hey, mommy's kind of sad right now, but that's okay. That's life. Sometimes that happens. We find out disappointing news. Something doesn't go our way, and that's okay to experience that emotion. And I'm so proud of you for noticing that. But mommy's gonna figure out what mommy needs to feel better. You don't have to worry about mommy's emotions. You don't have to be dependent on them or solve them. I'm going to figure out what my system needs. And maybe this girl let her daughter, you know, be in on the discovery. Maybe they sit down together. Maybe they cuddle. Maybe they go just lay out in the grass. I don't know. But what an opportunity to show our daughters of like what emotions look like, and stop pretending like we're either these robots or suppressed beings. So again, Julie, you know, you're talking about almost like two different generations. Well, three, I guess. the generation above you, the one who might not be ready to do the work, who might still be looking down at emotions, who might not understand them. But I want to encourage you to honor yourself of what you need when you need it. There are lots of times where in the moment I do need to have my husband see my tears or my frustrations or whatever. But there are times I'm realizing, like, Elena needs some time to herself actually, and dig in and see what's going on, because even Elena doesn't know how to communicate or identify really what's happening. And this is something within Elena's pressures, Elena's old programming, Elena's stuff that she needs to do. So we can absolutely continue to dissect the situation and learn a little bit more of like what makes sense and when. And if we even sit down, not to take this too deep, because I wanted this to be kind of a short reply to your amazing comment, like, even if I'm just being honest, okay, I'm gonna take this to a higher level. You even grunting in front of dad, what did you expect him to do? Dad's there. What did you desire him to do? I know Elena said feel your emotions and express them and tune into your body. That's good. But I'm just very curious, if I push it a little bit further, what would have happened if your dad was there? Or your sibling? Or your mom? Or someone else, right? What are we sometimes getting at? Because sometimes we'll even do certain things or not do certain things depending on the person next to us. Sometimes we'll try to punish other people more. Not saying you did, but sometimes we'll try to be more passive aggressive. Sometimes we're trying to be more socially appropriate and amazing in front of another person, even though, again, we're still feeling the same stuff. So I know I'm throwing it a lot at you. You're asking a lot of good questions because you're starting to be very aware of, like, wow, look at all these factors that I'm identifying and how they're all tying with one another. So I'm proud of your work. We are not done. I encourage all of us to continue to ask, why do we do what we do? And that's not to say that we're going to be stuck in this mental mode all the time, but there comes a point where, yes, I do believe as we learn how to resolve and communicate our feelings and problem solve earlier on, I do believe we will get better at not needing to, like, in the moment, like, fall apart, or because we will be building up systems that prevent us from getting to points where we're just like reacting at that level. So may you be encouraged. Ladies, continue to ask questions. And here's the other thing, ladies, this is not just Elena answers everything. Everyone has a wealth of wisdom. So everyone who's watching these comments, continue to support one another. What other comments do you have? What other stories do you guys have? Continue to support and give each other solutions, because this is going to be a wealth of a body of help and support. So hope this helps a little bit. We'll continue to work together, but I wish you the best. You are doing amazing. Don't forget that.